Hey guys, over here on the Facebook thing, we've got this. If you're eating 1-cent burgers, you're eating human meat. Let me show you guys something real quick. Let's start off right here. Do you guys know who Temple Grandin is? This is the lady from Red Bluff. Her very first humane cattle slaughter facility is over by Red Bluff High School. She is autistic and she thinks in pictures. Therefore, she doesn't think regularly. She's seeing things in front of herself and she's thinking in pictures, according to the story that they tell us. But let me take you guys down this rabbit hole for a second. The Freemasons like to talk in reverse order. And Temple Grandin would become in Grand Temple. Now, the Grand Temple for the Freemasons is their man junk behind their Freemasonic aprons. That's their Holy of Holies. Behind the apron is their Holy of Holies. So, Temple Grandin would be in Grand Temple, in their reversal of names. Now, let me show you why this is important. I came straight over to YouTube and I put in Temple Grandin Dip Vat because that's what these guys are doing. But what she's doing is telling the psychology of the cattle that if the cattle see that their friends are walking in front of them nice and calm, then the friends in front tell the friends in back that they can stay calm too. As long as she keeps them walking in a slight curve where you can't really see what's up around the bend coming next, all the cattle in the back will stay calm because they see their friends walking around the corner and they just follow. So, when the global elite, right, the top of Freemasonry, that the people who really would be eating human flesh, when the global elite call you cattle, they are saying that you are easy to persuade to move in the directions that they want you to move by following Temple Grandin's Dip Vat psychology.
So if the handlers walk slowly clockwise outside the chute, then the cattle walk counterclockwise through the chute. See? They'll just follow that curve. The cattle just keep calmly walking, thinking they're going in circles, following their buddies, and they're happy to follow a curve because they think they're going back to where they came from. They're okay because it's grooved and they know they won't slip. So when they take the next step, their center of gravity makes them drop calmly into the dip, and they just walk through the water.
Very interesting that the music that they started using for that is also Carl's
Jr.'s new big char chili.
Sorry. That song was from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. To our imaginations. Same keys that they just played when the cow goes into the water in the movie should have taken your brain back to hearing that and understanding that they are speaking in signs and symbols. So don't be one of the cattle that keeps following everybody in circles because your friends think that what they're seeing is safe going on in the world right now doesn't mean that what's going on is safe. Book of Revelations tells us that soon the stars are going to fall from the heavens like figs. If you go and look inside Scripture, the time that is Book of Revelation is kind of a shadow picture that goes along with the exodus of the Israelites out of Egypt. And because of that, we're told that we're going to end up being in the Sukkot, the tents, the same as while they were coming out into the desert, they were camping in tents, their Sukkots. at the same time that Yeshua comes back, it's going to be at the Feast of Trumpets. And we don't know which day because there's the 2-day window when the new moon will be coming up. So we have to be watchmen looking for the moon, not watchmen on the wall looking for the Satanists, like the Satanists are telling us that they're all Christians. Everybody inside this New Apostolic Reformation movement says we're the watchmen on the wall. That is a Freemason buzzword, watchman, wall. They put those two WWs, make them into 33s, they make their logos. So we have to get people to understand that these occultists have to tell us what they're doing out loud. So when you see somebody say, these people are acting like cattle, this mindset comes from the fact that you can't see what's coming around the next corner. And you're staying calm. So when the stars fall from the sky like figs, there's another scripture in Revelation that says, it doesn't say this part. So in the same way that God was feeding the Israelites in the desert, scripture ends up saying that in Revelation that you will invite your friends and your loved ones, I believe. You can go and check this. I would suggest that you go check this because I'm quoting it off the top of my head. That your friends and your relatives, something like that, will take refuge under the fig tree and the vine. Now, if you look at the Moedim, the holy feast dates, and you understand that Yeshua, Jesus, will have the Feast of Trumpets because that's when the ordination of the king would happen, then you look at the fact that that's inside the fall feasts, then you look at the time that fig trees produce. The figs will be producing at the same time as the Feast of Trumpets. And because of that, that's also the same time that we would be harvesting our grapes and our vines. Therefore, my personal belief, after watching how God has provided for Israel in the past using the manna, listening to this verse about the figs and the vines, then there's another verse, I think in Isaiah, maybe, I don't remember where, that says, one sec. Until the Spirit is poured out upon us from on high, the deserts will be an orchard, and the orchards will seem like a forest. So, if you guys start looking on YouTube right now, and you look up Andrew Millison, he is a professor from Oregon or Oregon State University who is going out into the deserts and helping the deserts to become gardens. And then if you look over at Freemason, because I've seen his ring, regardless of the fact that he puts up a Bible verse at the end of his videos, there's a YouTuber who's suggesting that everybody starts food forests. This guy's name is David the Good, right? I've seen him with his ring on his finger, changing the station on the radio when he was driving back from one of his meetings in one of his videos. Now, David the Good, call no man good. This guy has named himself David the Good. He's trying to teach you to do land racing of vegetables and how to do where you graft one kind of plant onto another kind of plant. God says don't do that. He doesn't want hybrid anything. He created what he wanted made, and that's where he wants it to stop. He doesn't want us mixing stuff. That's what the fallen angels do that gets them in trouble. Why would we copy them? Now, you're going to end up saying, Brian, one ring, that's just not sufficient for us to be able to believe that David the Good isn't good. But then we go over to his brother's page, and he has a YouTube channel that's called Flannel Farms. And if you go back and watch the last, 5 or 6 days maybe, it might have been a week or two. If you go and watch some of his last videos, at the end of his video, he's got a Templar Knight kneeling on one knee as his going out picture for his video. These guys speak in signs and symbols. So, do we want to build food forests? Yes. It's permaculture is easy to be able to function inside of, and we can still be able to have what we're supposed to have during the year. Let me show you something that I found. I didn't have this planned. Let me see if I can find it. We're going to grab this real quick.
And go forth in the dance. Bridal language here. I am going to build you again, and you shall be rebuilt, O maiden of Yisrael, and you shall take up your tambourines and go forth in the dances of those who rejoice. I believe this is Jubilee language, by the way. If you cross-reference verse 4 with Isaiah 61. Again, you shall plant vines on the mountains of Shomeron, or Samaria. So this is the northern kingdom. The planters shall plant and treat them as common. For there shall be a day when the watchmen cry. Remember that this is used in Ezekiel as well, this language of the watchman blowing the shofar. On Mount Ephraim, saying, Arise, let us go to Zion, to Yah our Elohim. For thus said Yah, sing with gladness for Yaakov, and shout among the chief of nations. Cry out, give praise, and say, O Yah, save your people, the remnant of Yisrael. So Yah saved.
The crying out is the blasting of the trumpets. That's another. The crying out of the trumpets and the blasting of the trumpets are both the same verbiage in Scripture. So it can be shouts, it can be trumpets, and at that time, the vines just got brought up again. Once again, this is during trumpets, and this isn't saying vines, but this is during trumpets again.
Again, see, I am bringing them. So you've got the regathering, being regathered from the ends of the earth. Think of Matthew 24:31. This is Yeshua saying, like, to his disciples, what will be the sign of your coming? He shall send his messengers with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather his chosen ones, the chosen ones, from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Again, regathering language being used with the great sound of a trumpet. His chosen ones.
Okay, remember that the Exodus from Egypt is compared to the Revelation, so we're going to listen to this.
Deuteronomy 8:2, you shall remember that Yah your Elohim led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you, to prove you, to know what is in your heart, whether you guard his commands or not.
To know whether you will keep his commands or not. Are you going to guard them? You're in the wilderness right now. You're being tested right now to see if you're going to keep his commandments. That's what it just said. So for the people who keep saying that the law has been thrown out, those are his commandments. We're going to keep going. Okay, so if you go over here to the Donkey Speaks, you go into, I think it was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, Escape His Wrath. This is part of Yom Teruah. You can be able to find this chart that says that the wheat comes to maturity in May. The barley comes to maturity in April, and the oats come to maturity in May. Those are the three harvests that we get before the very first of the Moedim, right? These are the things that will be coming to maturity. We should be getting peas, chickpeas. Oh no, sorry, chickpeas aren't until June. Lentils, vetch, sesame is in July, flax is in July, millet is July, August, and September. Grapes and figs and pomegranates all come to maturity during the Feast of Trumpets. And then we have olives that start off in September and end in, it looks like, maybe November. So God's holy feast dates line up with the times that we should be harvesting the food that we have in our gardens. But here's a list of the foods that line up with the holy feast dates. So this is probably a good starting point of what you should have inside your garden, right? wheat, barley, oats, peas, chickpeas, lentils, vetch, sesame, flax, millet, grapes, figs, pomegranates, and olives. Knowing that Scripture says, oh, one sec, I'll go get that verse too. Once again, I just put in to the Google search Bible verse, fig trees, and vines, and 3 verses popped up. This was the one that I was talking about. In that day, each of you will invite your neighbors to sit under your vine and fig tree, declares the Lord Almighty. Let's go see what the verses were in front of that. Okay, this is interesting that verse 10 is the last verse of this. So when we're looking at the in that day, each of you will invite your neighbors to sit under the vine and the fig tree, declares the Lord Almighty. It is, then he showed me Joshua, the high priest, standing before the Lord, before the angel of the Lord, and Satan, standing at his right side to accuse him. The Lord said to Satan, the Lord rebuke you, Satan. The Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Is not this man a burning stick snatched from the fire? Now Joshua was dressed in filthy clothes as he stood before the angel. The angel said to those who were standing before him, take off his filthy clothes. Then he said to Joshua, see, I have taken away your sin, and I put fine garments on you. Then I said, put a clean turban on his head. So they put a clean turban on his head and clothed him while the angel of the Lord stood by. And the angel of the Lord gave that charge to Joshua. This is what the Lord Almighty says. If you will walk in obedience to me and keep my requirements, my Torah, the things that I've asked my people to do, then I will govern my house and have charge of my courts, and I will give you a place among these standing here. Listen, High Priest Joshua, you and your associates seated before you, who are men symbolic of things to come. I am going to bring my servant, the branch. See the stone I have set in front of Joshua? There are 7 eyes on that one stone, and I will engrave an inscription on it saying, the Lord Almighty and I will remove the sin of this land in a single day. And this is the part that we care about, because he's going to remove the sin of the land in one single day. In that day, each of you will invite your neighbors to sit under the vine and the fig tree, declares the Lord Almighty. There's a reason why I've been growing figs. One second, let me do that part real quick too. So, figs, grapes, and olives were 3 of the first things that man took that God had created and started making them into a cash crop because they are so easy to grow. So if you need to get fig trees, go and look up fig propagation. You can do it from cuttings. You can do it from air layering. Do the same thing. I've got 20 fig trees in containers. I've got 25 fig trees that are being air layered right now. I've got 1 olive tree that I air layered last fall. I've got 14 more olives, green olives, that are air layering right now. So I will have 15 fully functioning olive trees in 4 to 6 weeks, depending on what weather we get. And because we are going from air layers, which means that we're taking off the cambium layer of the... One sec, I'll just show you the video.
Although layering is sometimes thought about putting the stem in contact with the soil, there is also a technique referred to as air layering. Air layering works very nice on plants that are easy to root, like the fig that we see here. All we need to do is find a clean section of stem where there are no side branches or leaves attached, and attach our layering in this location. With most air layering, it is recommended that you use a material called sphagnum moss. Sphagnum moss is a spongy-like material that can be easily wrapped around that section of stem that you hope to create the layering. For successful rooting, we want to make sure the sphagnum moss stays moist, so we are going to seal it up. My class has been using a saran wrap-like material just to wrap it up and seal it off. And then we will use bands to kind of tie off the end so it stays in place. The last thing we hope to do is kind of also try to preserve the water in there by eliminating some of the heat that it may feel from the sun. So we're actually going to wrap some tinfoil around this to kind of reflect some of that solar radiation. Once rooting has occurred and you can actually see the physical roots on the inside of the plastic, you can cut this from the mother plant, remove that plastic, and then be able to plant this stem directly into media. And that becomes your new tree.
So, sun's about to go down. It's not the Sabbath, but the sun's about to go down. So, love you guys. Just wanted to have a little short chat with you. Part of what I do in my life is spend my days propagating plants and planting them next to running water, because that's where Scripture tells us that we're supposed to plant our plants, is next to streams of living water for His faith. And the shadow of that would be if we plan, chicken, what are you doing up on the gate? Get down. Not outside, inside. Turn around. Turn around. Turn around. Down. Get down. On your own. Come on. Go, go. Go, baka, baka. Thank you. All right. So, love you guys. Read your scriptures. All the answers are in there.